Before we talk about one of my favorite songs of all time, I want to give a huge shout out to the new kid on the block, Patreon supporter, emo kid, Twitter verified, Haley Williams interviewing Cole Villena. We got the big one. Thanks so much for supporting the show, man. It really means the world to us. Can't tell you enough how much we appreciate you. And let's get into the episode.
Hey there, buddy boy.
Hey there. Yeah. Whoa. Love the energy, Pat.
Yeah.
This is one of my favorite songs, one of my favorite albums of all time. So I'm stoked. You're stoked.
Yeah. But you were saying we should make sure we're starting the show with some energy. Let's get it going.
You know, that reminds me of when we were writing a novel and I was like, hey, we should maybe do something like this. And then you would purposely do the opposite just to spite me. So it's like, oh, you'll get energy, face.
Yeah. It's the summer. We just passed, we're already past 4th of July. That's ancient history, man. The summer's basically over, but we're having some summertime vibes, even though I barely recognized it was summer at first, but now it definitely is. We're like in the middle, almost towards the end. The energy is pretty high. And I think it's right around, people on Twitter, a couple weeks ago, that is, we're having fun little tournaments about summer-themed songs, and we forgot to enter the Aquabats pool party, which upset me a lot.
Oh, no! That's going to keep me up at night.
But what upset me even more, Tom, really ticked me off, man, was that we didn't have a Dangerous Summer song that we recommended to our buddy Nathan. And, it's summer. Let's have ourselves a dangerous summer. Let's check off another important 2000s box a little later in the decade. But what do you say? What do you say we have a dangerous summer?
Man, I don't know about you, but I don't think that these are very summery songs. It's very deep into winter depression music to me. But you know what? Maybe that's just how I experienced it.
I'd love to dig in. Let's start the show.
Let's do it. What is going on, everybody? I'm Tom.
And I'm Pat.
We're best friends, and you're listening to the Reminiscent Podcast. So yeah, not to give away too many future episodes, this is a desert island album for me. I mean, this is
wow,
deeply rooted into my top 10 albums of all time, probably closer to top 5.
Okay, so yeah, programming note, if you're here, thanks. Follow us on Twitter at _reminiscentfm. There's a couple themes here this week that we don't want to spoil too much, but we're planning on doing a drum draft. We did a bass one and we did a guitar one. So that's in the works, and we're going to try to do a redemption episode. Years ago, we tried to do a top 5 Desert Island albums, which we're going to do again. And Tom has Dangerous Summer things he wants to talk about on both those episodes. So what we're going to do here is ruin both of those episodes at the same time. 2 birds with one stone, but instead of working more efficiently, we're going to ruin our future selves' times a little more. I'm kidding.
Gosh.
But I do want to pick your brain a little. What's the story? How'd you find them? As a band in general, you don't have to talk about the album you're going to pick later in a few weeks here, but we haven't talked about them on the show before. I think that's just kind of like a big moment just to address, because our Twitter followers really, really fucking love the Dangerous Summer, like in a very exciting, palpable excitement type of way.
Well, I have drafted them 3 times at this point. I think I had surfaced on the driving draft. I had this song Where I Want to Be on the album openers draft. And I think I had Never Feel Alone on the Lying on the Floor in Despair draft. So I have talked, I've drafted them a bit, but I'm really excited to give them a full episode. And yeah, we're going to have them a bit more in the not so distant future as well. The Dangerous Summer, okay, they're from the Baltimore, Maryland area, Ellicott City. I lived in Northern Virginia for 7 years, and I was less than an hour and a half from Baltimore. I got to see this band over and over and over again in their hometown at tiny venues, and It was just the best. I recently found out today they moved to Denver the month that I moved away, and Aaron Gillespie joined the band, and I low key want to fucking die that I'm not around to experience that as all these COVID restrictions are dropping and everyone's vaccinated. That kind of low key kills me. But the first time
That's insane that he joined the band.
I know.
Is that our first example of an emo supergroup?
Ooh, well, yeah, I don't know, man. It's pretty intense. I mean, he's an incredible drummer.
Boomers always talk
singer.
about they were supergroups. Clapton joined up with them, and Joe Welch joined the Eagles. Whatever. On our scale, I feel like you just dropped buried a headline a little bit where Gillespie joins the Dangerous Summer. Oh my God! So they get to play Queen and Bad Company songs at the same concert. Oh my God!
Well, I think it's also funny that they're. Tyler Minsberg, the original drummer of The Dangerous Summer, had very long red hair. And I don't know if Aaron Gillespie has cut his, but I think it's kind of fun that, it's another long-haired red dude that absolutely wails. Anyway, The first time I heard this song, this band, I don't remember it. The second time, which is my actual first time in my mind, I've told this story before, where my friend Tyler, who was an awesome bass player for many local Erie bands, he's one of those dudes that he was 19, didn't want to go to college, didn't want to have a real job. So he trolled Craigslist for odd jobs, and he found this job. I can't believe he did it. There was a sandwich shop in Philadelphia, and someone from Cleveland wanted a sandwich delivered from Philadelphia. So my friend Tyler drove from Erie to Philadelphia, maybe 8.5 hours. And I just happened to post on Facebook that hey, I'm in the DC area. I would like to get home to Erie this weekend if possible. And he's like, I'm in Philly. I'll just swing down and scoop you up, which was a 3-hour drive or something. So he drives from Erie to Philly to DC, drives me back to Erie, and then delivers a sandwich to Cleveland. And apparently he only got paid $40, which included the price of the sandwich, which is a colossal failure in my opinion.
Oh my God. Was it a cheesesteak?
Maybe, but it was legitimately 20 hours
through the
of
bun,
driving.
man. By the time the Cleveland guy got, what the hell is this guy thinking?
So this guy, Tyler, we had many nights at Eaton Park in Perkins together in this group of 15 friends we used to go with after shows, but we had never hung out one-on-one. So it was really awesome to be in his shitty Civic from the early 90s. And he was just you ever heard of The Dangerous Summer? And I was like, no. And he puts on this record when it was this probably was probably summer 2010. So it had been out for over a year already. But it was one of those things where I don't know if you've ever tried to put on music for a friend in the car and they talk through the whole fucking song. Just get out of the fucking car. But anyway.
Yeah, it's the reason for 90% of the memes on emo Twitter.
Right. But we listened to this album for 7.5 hours, in silence. We did the whole drive listening to this record, and it just totally took me away. And there was this layer of this guy Tyler, who's a really cool guy. We should not be in the same car together. We are not friends on that level, but for right now we are. And he's introduced me to great music. And I was ecstatic. I was over the moon. I come home and I'm dating Megan 1. And I was like, oh my God, babe, I just heard about this band, The Dangerous Summer. And she's like, yeah, asshole, I've introduced you to them twice already and you kept forgetting. And what's really funny is my wife, Megan, she's the third Megan I dated, which is why I call it Megan 1, Megan 3. It's the same thing. I'll be like, hey, babe, there's this really great song. And she's like, yeah, I played that for you 2 years ago and you said you didn't like it. So someone else introduces me to it and all of a sudden I love it. But I remember
that's definitely the same thing as the youth pastor thing from earlier stories that we tell on the show, but there's always round 1, round 2, round 3, etc.
Yeah.
But it is more interesting when you have to live with the person that gave you the first rec. The stakes are a little higher there. Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah. But anyways, so this album was introduced to me in a very cool and unique way. And I have memories of like going home to Erie. I've always loved mowing the lawn. And I put on my earbuds and I was mowing the lawn listening to this record, just like, this is the greatest shit I've ever heard in my life. And then the best thing was I went back to Northern Virginia and I could see them 6 times a year if I wanted. And I think I may have for the last 3 or 4 years that I lived there. I've probably seen this band 20 times. And what's
your favorite show memory?
Okay, so actually from their shows, the first time I saw them at Jam and Java in Vienna, Virginia, I was just screaming every word. And there was this kid next to me who was like screaming them with such intensity. And it was that kind of thing where like we were like holding each other by the shoulders and like screaming the words to each other. And then later on, I was like, dude, we should fucking hang out sometime. So I got this dude Nick's number and we started hanging out. I ended up recording an EP for his solo act. We became super fucking good friends. And then we went to like every Dangerous Summer show together and we kind of became friends with the band. So like they would often pull us on stage for like the last song and like let us sing it in the microphone. And it was like this kid who I met at a Dangerous Summer show. Our thing was to then go to Dangerous Summer shows together. And we made 2 other really great friends, Jeff and Ian, at a Dangerous Summer show. We all got connected up, and then my buddy AJ started going with us, and like the 5 of us would just go to Dangerous Summer shows in DC, Virginia, and Maryland together. And lots of really special memories, dude. Like this album means a lot to me. There's a lot of friendships that happen because of them. And this is one of those bands where like I bought a fixed gear in March of 2010 and spent the next like 6 years kind of, building it, swapping out parts, building wheels and whatever. And it was this symbol of freedom. It was almost like when I was like 11 and I got my first Huffy and all of a sudden I could go to further places unknown, and I'm in college. I don't have to take the fucking metro anymore. I rode that bike. I mean, I was riding, again, this is a brakeless fixed gear. I was riding 30 or 40 miles a day. And there were a few bands that remind me of that freedom, literally start riding at 1 a.m. and come back at like 5. And this is one of the soundtracks of those bike rides. Just DC at night, not much traffic, Monument still lit up. There's a line in one of the songs about I took the Key Bridge north to your parents' house again, and I had to take the Key Bridge north to get into DC. So it was like sometimes I would try to time it, so I was driving over the bridge as those lyrics came up. Really nice. Special album, yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious if people who live in Minneapolis who like to hold steady, I'm sure there's more than a few feel that way about the Greenbelt Bridge. But yeah, it's interesting. This was released in 2009. We always talk about our freshman year was 2005 of high school, that is. But those post-senior year summer albums that we clung to carried a different weight because you weren't like listening to Tell All Your Friends, just as an obvious example for the show we do, carried a certain amount of weight within the bubble I was still living in, whether or not I had a driver's license at the time, et cetera, just like working with the factors I've got. But the albums you're in the summer after your senior year, you rely on them for a different, and not to make assumptions about, whoever's personal journey with music or whatever, but I feel like you and I, at least, you rely on them for a heavier emotional need almost. Like, I need this music to do more for me than just, cure my Erie, Pennsylvania ills. I gotta go somewhere next. And it's a scary thing. It's a special thing. And it's not, I'm just like painting between the lines and letting you go for this one because you're more connected to this band than I am. But it sounds like, obviously you love this album a lot, but they may or may not have served that role for you as kind of just like being there for you on more than just I have a crush in high school level. Right.
I mean, early 2010 would have been the upsides in this album that came out like into my freshman year of college. And I needed them for that time, man. I kind of put the two together a lot sometimes, but I don't think there's kind of this like blank space between 2006 and 2011 where not a lot of things really like stuck. I've been thinking a lot about, like, it's funny that, the show, we stop it at 2010 or whatever, when some of my favorite albums came out between 2011 and 2013, looking at, like, Real Friends, The Story So Far, some Wonder Years albums, stuff like that.
Maybe for your birthday, we'll skip decades a bit.
Sure.
We did all the small things for your birthday last year, so maybe we'll do something like that.
Or when we run out of shit to talk about, we can extend the decades. But anyways, yeah, I mean, this was a big one. This was like, there's a lot of themes in this album about, like, finding yourself and, looking back on who you used to be, kind of looking forward to, like, the person you want to become. Can I get there? Do I have what it takes to get there? And when you're a freshman in college, it feels like half a world away. From Erie to DC was about 7.5 hours with little traffic, which you rarely got. I felt like I was all on my own. And there was, like, a big part of me that was like, can I do this on my own? Do I have what it takes? And this album came at a pretty important time. But also, it's just some of the best songwriting that there probably ever has been. I mean, this song especially, Where I Want to Be, is like...
Whoa! That's a fucking scorcher out of left field. I'm here for the excitement level, but damn!
It's so simple. Like, the chord progressions and the themes and stuff are pretty simple, but the drums are total fucking slayer. The lyrics are great. I mean, everything is, like, out of 10 on this album, specifically.
Yeah, this song, Where I Want to Be, I guess we might not have mentioned that yet as we're talking about that music video today. You kind of know as soon as you get one or two runs through the chord progression, you're like, oh yeah, I like this song. And you get 10 seconds deep, you're like, very into this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could do some fast facts and then get into the song in the video. I don't want this to just be an episode like, oh, I love it so much, but it can be easy to do that if we're not trying to stick to it.
We already do that every week, I think, other than, like, I think we recently... like tried to avoid giving AFI the business a couple weeks ago or something.
Well, hit me with the fun facts.
I don't. Well, hey, if don't tempt me with a good time, bruh. Dangerous Summer is an American rock band from Ellicott City, Maryland,
suburb of Baltimore. Yeah,
there you go. I wonder if they've ever toured with All Time Low. I didn't come across that in the brief.
They have the same record producer, Paul Levitt. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there you go. Good fact to it. I wonder if he's from Maryland as well. The band's name is taken from the book of the same name by Ernest Hemingway, and their studio debut album, Reach for the Sun, was released on May 5th, 2009. And reached number 42 on the Billboard Heatseekers chart. Not too shabby. Any thoughts, Tom?
I mean, I honestly thought this album came out in 2010 because that's when I found out about it. We were a month until we graduated high school when this album came out, and I would never consider this an album that existed while I was still in high school. That's so crazy to me.
Right. Well, I was mentioning the summer after 2009. I think this is a few summers there where this is before you, Zach, and I started rendezvousing in DC and kind of rekindling our friendship and everything. But there was definitely like in cartoons when they throw somebody outside of the house and it's raining and they get hit in the back with the briefcase and a comical amount of clothes and hats and stuff. And then the door slams behind them and they look back like with those big puppy eyes and it's just like, I'm out here alone. And just kind of that vibe that summer. And it seems like this album was just good anyway, but kind of fits some of those themes.
Totally. Yeah, totally.
For you. But yeah, it's interesting that it lined up that perfectly. Like, hey, 2009, out into the world I go. And it's like, Dangerous Summer's like, here you go. Have this. This might help.
Yeah.
Anyway, on March 4th of that year, Surfaced was made available for streaming through the band's MySpace profile.
Hey-o.
Wanted to include that factoid because just in terms of the internet timeline, that's something we try to track here on the show. Had to have been somebody in some boardroom somewhere was like, ooh, we'll do a MySpace release. Love it. People seem to love the internet. The first single was the song we're here to talk about today, Where I Want to Be, released to iTunes in April of that year, 2009. And then in October and November of that year, the group went on a U.S. tour alongside Brian Bonds, Dave Melillo, and Stray Light Run.
Hey-o.
Pretty good ticket. And this is an interesting sentence from the Wikipedia page. I'm curious your thoughts. Quote, over the years, the band has sold over 60,000 albums and over 300,000 singles. End quote. Thoughts on those numbers on the Wikipedia page?
When we heard the Wonder Years and the Upsides that had sold like 50,000, I was like, what? There's no way. This is like a 50 million album sale album. Clearly it wasn't. For some reason, The Dangerous Summer feels like this size to me. I don't know if it was just because I've seen them in such intimate, small venues in the hometown, whatever. It's really sad that they're not selling millions, but I think sadly this seems accurate in my head.
Yeah, no, but it also is yours uniquely, to a certain degree as well. So
sure.
It's like, hey, at least it found its way to me, feel lucky enough for that sometimes.
Right. Yeah, and like I said, they recently moved to Denver. The singer, AJ, was in LA for a bit, had a kid, came back to Maryland. They were looking for a new sound, new vibe, moved to Denver, got a new drummer, replacing Ben Cato, who was super good, but I don't think could quite capture the sounds of Tyler Minsberg, who was the drummer on definitely the first, I think also the second album. Anyway, the album was produced by Paul Levitt, who did All Time Low, The Used, Senses Failed, Turnstile, Such Gold, Emarosa, Have Mercy, Hit the Lights, Conditions, and Gwen Stacy, which I forgot about until today. Like I said, I've drafted them a bunch already, and this might be the band I've seen most in my life. I thought it was Newfound Glory because they would just play at the VFW down the road for like $2.50 all the time. But I was looking up concert show archives or whatever, and they were playing Jam and Java for like $8, like The Dangerous Summer headlining for $8, and at like a 150 200 cap venue or whatever. And I drove all over the fucking tri-state area to see them. It was incredible. And Aaron Gillespie, that's so crazy. Anyway, yeah, yes. That's all I really had for the fun facts.
What a get for
I
just
know
all of us. Yeah, we're talking about the music video. The band's playing in the video, of course. There's children playing hide and seek in the video, and we'll walk through some of the elements of the visuals. But I wanted to start here and just get very technical and ask you, what's your favorite yard game? Any memories of playing, whether it could be hide and go seek in the yard, a little ghost in the graveyard action maybe, just what's going on in your head when you see these two kids romping around having a great time?
I think of one night I was at Ryan Mueller's house, and it was probably one of the first times Hannah and I were ever together in a group, and we played Ghost in the Graveyard at Ryan's parents' property, which is like this.
Were they having a giant fire? Was I there?
Probably, yeah.
Interesting.
I forget the rules of Ghost in the Graveyard, but I remember loving it. Like, what are the rules again?
Well, it might go by multiple names. I don't know. But essentially, you start normally at the front of someone's property. You're basically just a home base, right? And then one person goes to hide. They're the ghost. And you say 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock rock, etc. 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock rock, midnight. You count up. And then you go to try to find the ghost. And the general rule is if they tag you, you're the ghost next time. But if I guess the rub is if you see the ghost in the graveyard, you can yell it. And then once it's been declared, everyone has to run back to the base. But if the ghost is able to tag before you return. So it's in the ghost's interest to be not seen before he can tag somebody. But depending on the property you're playing on, that could have multiple different... We used to play in Lake Cliff a ton. I remember I would take my shirt and drape it over bushes as a distraction across the yard. So people be as like a little... so we would hide in trees and jump off roofs.
Damn.
And take it kind of one of those things where you're too old to be playing, but we were better at it because we were older. So it was fun because everyone was still into it. Yeah, a lot of fun playing that game. Specifically at Dave Hall's house on Joliet Avenue for sure.
I would kill to have more nights like that. I feel like there definitely weren't enough in my childhood.
Oh, it was a joy where I think I hung my shirt on a bush and somebody was like, because it had become a little bit of a calling card when we were children, whatever. But it was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Someone was like, oh, and then I was in a bush from across the way and grabbed someone's ankle who was in the group and they were like, ah! It was so good.
So at that point, do people have to run back or it just starts?
No, I got them.
Okay,
with that, no one saw me and they were the ghost next. And
wow.
So every time after that, when they would see the shirt, they were like, so, it just worked so perfectly. I've never executed anything so well in my life. It's the only good thing I've ever done. And yeah, I love it. Anyway, I wanted to, basically I was like, hey, Tom, what's your favorite yard game? Because I want to tell a story really bad.
All right. Real quick, before we get into a deeper discussion on the video, I want to give a shout out to all of our top tier Patreon supporters. These are our Council of Elders. In this group, we have Andre Prevost, Johnny Leftwich, Jason Carey, Anonymous, Chris Lukey, Nathan Eshelman, and Drew Edwards. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. I can't believe how many there are of you now. It is truly incredible, and it really warms our heart that you all support the show. If you'd like to check it out for yourself, you can head to patreon.com/reminiscent, where you can find weekly post shows. Yes, this is an extra 10 to 15 minutes of episodes every single week. Behind the scenes photos, videos, monthly AMAs, sneak peeks of what we're working on, and generally just a lot of good times together. Again, that's patreon.com/reminiscent, but back to the show.
Anyway, this is a very yard game-ish music video in a very delightful type of way.
Awesome.
One more question? Well, there's going to be plenty. But thoughts on it becoming a thing in the 2010s to hang lights in your yard? Because there are a ton of lights here in an artistic-y type of way. Were people already doing this in 2009? Was like the Brooklynification, meet me in the bathroom, lights and burger joints and, draft beer, whatever. I don't know. I feel like now you go to any backyard and they have the lights and it's like a whole thing and they have the little pill speakers and it's like a thing. But thoughts on the 2010s phenomena of backyards having lights in them?
Bro, I love the bistro lights in restaurants, in outdoor patios. I have them around the bass traps in my room. We have some outside. I mean, we had them behind us in the AMA where you were here. I cannot get enough outdoor lights. And this band, they deliver. Not only do they have the bistro lights hanging how you see them in every fucking Brooklyn, speakeasy or whatever the but they have those like hanging paper lanterns of different colors all over the place, different heights. I think they do it very well. I think about, I think it was Came Out Swinging, the Wonder Years music video. They were also kind of capitalizing on this other trend of like hanging light bulbs, like an Edison bulb, and they smashed them, whatever, as the little ghost girl terrorized everyone. But I think
Sounds
this
like
band,
a Hawthorne Heights music video.
right. But I think they did it in a way that was, I don't know. There was a lot going on and it looked fucking beautiful. And not just that, it wasn't just the lights from the stuff around them. They had like proper lighting on the scene. It got me wondering if they had a generator running all those things and how noisy it might have actually been on set, because they were just like in the woods under this huge oak tree or whatever at night. I think it's a great backdrop. It's like, it's simple enough where you're still doing the band in the woods, but they added a lot of elegance to it that looked like it was probably on a budget, but it was done very well. I love the visuals of this video.
Yeah, there's something very calming or reassuring about the whole thing. Okay, bear with me for this particular take. It's not really a take. Just help me with this, please. Will you help me with this, please?
I will.
Okay, thank you. There's a lot of scarves. There's more than one scarf in this video.
Right.
He's wearing kind of a captain's jacket. We talk a lot about the Fall Out Boy Gibson SG guitar being kind of trendy, 05, 06, whatever. I think We Don't Need to Whisper came out in, was it 06? And Tom had that big acoustic, what's that called?
Oh, the hollow body?
The hollow body. Yeah, so then things were starting to get a little more, I don't know, Juno came out and they were like, what are you, alt or something? He's like, alternative to what? Anyway, there's that whole thing about what alt even meant. But you mentioned their Les Pauls and Telecasters or whatever, but there's kind of a clean guitar sound and less of a devil horny guitar head look to their whole vibe. And there's scarves plural. Talk to me about what the hell is going on here, because it's amazing, but it is just straight up different than a lot of the stuff we talk about. We haven't exited the decade yet, but we know a lot of sounds are going to careen towards, quote, alt and, quote, folk. Like we're only a couple years away from what Monsters and Men are about to do.
Oh, God.
Talk to me about what the hell's happening with all these scarves and all these different looks to the guitars and the clean sound. I don't know if that's technically clean, but like you said, musically, it's just riffs and good lyrics or whatever. But I'm not downplaying it. It's just different than, we just talked about Miss Murder for f***'s sake, so that's like a pretty different. But it still qualifies, of course, to be talked about on the show. What happened? Take a stab. I don't know. Just help me here.
Yeah, it starts off like with that cleaner lead, has a little bit of fuzz to it, whatever. But this band was very like atmospheric, I felt like. You know, you mentioned Angels and Airwaves. There's a lot of those like tinkly little lead lines that to me is so... I know Dangerous Summer didn't like invent them, but Brian had a way of writing lead lines that were very crisp, but not super distorted, that had a lot of ambience to it, tons of delay. And to me, it's like the brand of the Dangerous Summer that I don't think I've liked songs they've put out since Brian left, but not quite as much, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, there's a Telecaster, which is going to be the number one used guitar of pop punk over the next 10 years. A Les Paul, which is a classic maybe for like heavier stuff. You know, the two guitars that I own are a Gibson Les Paul and a Fender Telecaster, just two very unique, fun guitars that are not the Tele, not super high gain, which I guess matches the type of stuff that they're playing. It's heavy and it's crunchy, but it's not like super overdriven or anything. I think it is kind of a look at like what's going to be coming over the next decade or so, which I think is kind of not towards folky though, but like a lot of I think of Tiny Moving Parts.
Gaslight Anthem type shit. I don't know.
Well, yeah, Gaslight Anthem, but also like I'm even thinking like bands like Tiny Moving Parts are using Tellies, and it's very finger tappy, crunchy, overdriven stuff, but it's not like breakdowns and stuff. I guess it's borrowing from some more Midwest emo, but it's going to get very Telecaster heavy over the next few years for sure. I think the Dangerous Summer is, yeah, they were onto some shit for sure.
Well, there's not a breakdown in sight in this song. I mean, I don't want to give too much credit to We Don't Need to Whisper, but we just talked about AFI and the Black Parade a lot in that episode. If 2006 had all three of those records, including We Don't Need to Whisper, I'm not giving Tom DeLonge credit for everything in like my musical life, even though he can take it because I'm a dumb boy. But, you know, like with Charlie Day and the Yarn and the Boxes Full of Pepe in mind, I'm just trying to draw the lines between like, how do we get from Miss Murder to Gaslight Anthem or whatever? Not that they have anything to do with each other. I'm just curious, like, when did it become cool to go clean and be storytelly in a, I guess, I don't know what I'm trying to say, Tom, but I like them both so much. But breakdowns just, well, I guess there was a fracture, right? Like, we talk about we've learned a little about the 2010s through a blind obsession with King for a Day by Pierce the Veil featuring Kellen Quinn, which we're going to reference in every episode for the next like 10 years, I'm pretty sure. But it's not like the breakdowns died. There's a fucking 2007 breakdown in that song, and it makes me angry how good it is, to quote Jon Stewart reviewing the Book of Mormon when it came out. But, you know, it's they didn't go anywhere, but there was these new branches just going every which way. I think Paramore's sound changed dramatically at the turn of the decade.
Let me say, this album came out 6 months after Attack Attack's Sunday Came Suddenly came out. So everything was happening at once.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Where is the scene? That's the main question that I wanted to touch on this. Like,
there's multiple scenes.
Well, let's talk about that, because you wanted to save a few of the drum comments for a future episode. You want to save a couple discovering the band anecdotes for, you know, a future episode, anything like that. So let's have this conversation. Where is the scene? Because we're about to go, you know, Mumford & Sons is about to be a talking point, for better or worse.
And fuck up everyone's lives.
You know, regardless of how that band's trajectory went from there. You know, that whole thing, Avid Brothers about to blow, about to pop off, all that stuff, Gaslight Anthem.
Hell yeah.
You know, it's going to splinter. Hot Topic is about to rebrand. Dr. Hot Topic is going to smooth the surface of the font out a little bit just to try to make it more approachable in the mall, maybe. But
and then The Word Alive is going to drop a killer album soon after. So.
Right. Things are happening, to say the least, and to state the obvious. But I don't know. I don't know if we're going to figure it out. Just give me your thoughts, your theories. There's more than one scene going on, sure, but like, I just don't feel like we were watching people mimic Adam Lazzara for years, swinging mics and drinking iced tea on stage, throwing bangs in front of their fucking faces. I don't remember seeing a ton of Dangerous Summer like dudes. So I guess what I'm trying to hypothesize here is that in 2009, some sort of door was opened or some type of permission was granted. And I don't think it was We Don't Need to Whisper, but I'm open to guesses at _reminiscent FM. yeah, where was everybody? Sound wise, sonically. I don't know. Maybe Vampire Weekend was just confusing people enough to try new shit. I don't know.
Yeah, let me see. So I've heard a lot that The Dangerous Summer sounds a little bit like U2. And I know that they've listed U2 and Jimmy Eat World as very big inspirations for the band. And I do hear, not like I'm this huge U2 enthusiast, but like you kind of know some of their shit, what it sounds like. Maybe Explosions in the Sky. So instrumental bands like that were coming out at the time. If These Trees Could Talk, Caspian, stuff like that. So maybe there was some of that. I think Brian was kind of inspired by bands like that. I mean, there were a lot of things going on at once because like, We Came as Romans and The Word Alive and shit like that was happening at this same time. Attack Attack was putting stuff out. The Dangerous Summer, maybe you didn't see a lot of bands doing shit like that because they only sold 60,000 records. Like they just weren't a big deal. I just think like... I don't know.
It's just fascinating to me in the context of modern baseball, in the context of what's the talent of the Hawk band, the Front Bottoms, and through the context of King for a Day, still going bazillion platinum in like 2014. How did this record come out in 2009 and just go so quietly into the night as far as we can tell? I don't know. I guess people just are always writing stuff, but yeah, at some point, I guess what I'm trying to say is that the Hot Topic era had to have, like there wasn't a perception anymore where you had to have a breakdown to get famous. People still had that role to play, that game to play. They could still play that card up and through 2014-ish, but there was more of maybe people were getting tired of that whole thing. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they were watching Christopher Drew pick up an acoustic and just, cute panda paw his way onto the fucking Tonight Show and shit. I don't know.
Well, they were on tour, so I do remember seeing them.
I'm sorry, that makes it sound like I have anything against Never Shout Never. I don't. I think
it's incredible.
We've done episodes on them. Yeah, it is. It's really good, but it was a new way to get famous almost.
Yeah, I mean, so I do remember seeing The Dangerous Summer on tour with Sparks the Rescue, which makes a lot of sense to some of those getting away from breakdowns and stuff. They were also with Mayday Parade, Versa Merge, Ann Arbor, which Ann Arbor, I'm not intimately familiar with them, but if I do remember correctly, it wasn't so overdriven breakdowny. It was more of this almost kind of like May, if anyone remembers them. There was this thing happening in 2007-9 through 2009 that was probably before and beyond, but yeah, a little more like middle of the road, almost like if Reliant K borrowed more stuff from pop punk. I don't know.
I blame the Maine for most of the bad things.
Oh, yeah, the Maine.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, dude, they're so good. They're still putting out bangers, man. It's crazy.
Yeah, shout out to the Maine. I think they played a halftime show at an NBA game recently or something like that. Good for them.
Oh, my God.
Also, thematically, just wanted to touch on this real quick. We talk about the upsides. You pair these two records in your head a lot. It's really not that bad. I think that I can grow more self-aware than the lyrics might have been a couple years prior to this with what we talk about here on the show.
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of shit about... So Mike Henneberger talked about The Dangerous Summer a lot when we gave him the Tyson Ritter versus Kenny Vasoli bassist frontman. He opted for neither and chose AJ Padermo, the singer and bassist of The Dangerous Summer.
One of the questions I had. Underrated bass playing frontman here. He's putting on a show on the video. Talk about him and his performance in general.
Yeah, dude. I mean, he always gave a lot. I miss his orange bass guitar that came after this music video was filmed. I think he auctioned it off for something later on. I always thought he was an incredible frontman who didn't he never oversold himself. It was an understated performance, but he's super good, man. I mean, he's really, really fun to watch perform for sure.
Yeah, as the girl and the boy in the video are kind of playing tag and searching for each other. And this is weird, I guess, but in terms of Jimmy Eat World influences, having a brown-haired frontman that's sweating, I could definitely see the Jimmy Eat World parallels as far as their music videos go. But he's got a little bit of Jim Atkins to him going, and he's kind of working the camera a little bit, got some sweat going. He's leaving it on the floor, as it were, with the jacket still on. Shout out to jackets, I suppose, and their ability to keep us warm.
And the scarf. You lose a lot of heat in the neck.
Yeah. Let's revisit the scarves. Just reactions, thoughts, hopes, dreams.
So it it reminded me of was it from Workaholic? No. What was the thing with like you could only wear one fedora per crew or something?
Did you have any did you test any accessories that you regret between the years 2007 and 2012? Including a scarf, potentially.
I have a really nice scarf that I love. I forget the name or the style of it at this point. It's like a Palestinian.
It could be a cardigan.
Traditional.
There was a whole
Oh, I know. I got bullied. No, I didn't get bullied. Hannah gave me this cardigan to wear once, and I wore it to some day senior year, and everyone made fun of me. So I went to my locker and took it off. I had really bad hair from 2010 to 2012. That I would call that an accessory. Yeah, that might be it.
Yeah, you kind of stayed true to your look now that I think about it. There was no weird scarf. You just kind of kept adding and then kept it all because you still looked kind of the same.
There was a necklace that Megan 1 made me that it was like a hemp necklace with beads on it. It was like a thick choker, and I was like so smitten with her that I wore it everywhere. But I don't think it fit the rest of my look. So I remember going to the Edinburgh Hangout, and actually Tyler Long, the guy who introduced me to this band, being like, "What's up with that necklace, dude?" But like in a very like still friendly way. I don't think he was making fun of me. Just like, whoa, what is that inconsistency? Yeah. Oh my God.
I remember the Erie Times News came with these very specifically sized blue rubber bands, and people would put those on their wrists and like those Livestrong style bracelets.
Oh,
on the
yeah,
other.
yeah.
That came and went quickly, but I do remember a girl giving me a bracelet that was not woven, but it was whatever, friendship bracelet type crush thing in high school. And I remember wearing it and having that thought of like, it's going to be so cool when I never take this off. I did, obviously, like, at some point.
Oh, you know what? Around that time when I was dating Megan 1, I had half a forearm full of bracelets with like the silly bands that were different shapes and different things. I don't regret it though.
I worked at a water park, and I would always, at the beginning of the day on the slide, I would ask some kid for one free silly band and try to like through trade leave with more silly bands at the end of the day. And but I'd always lose giving some good ones to like one of those ones I couldn't see, and it would just be like a glittery, really low quality one that spelled out LOL or something. I'd be like, shit, I gave a dinosaur up for this. This is bullshit. But yeah, so definitely some bracelet times were had. They came and went quicker than fidget spinners. We're getting way off course. But yeah, I feel like I only ever dabbled with bracelets. Sounds like neither of us went scarf or hat. You were a trucker hat guy for a minute, weren't you?
Bro.
Or you've developed into a hat guy. I feel like we're both different types of hat guys now that we're like adult dads or whatever.
I've noticed recently, especially as I'm losing hair quicker and quicker with this baby, that I have a lot of hats, and I do love the trucker hats. I remember for a while I was buying these blank trucker hats off of eBay for like $1.97 and spray painting like college letter X's and shit on them. When I bought the Suburbia record, it came with a Hank the Pigeon stencil, and I put that on everything. I went through a spray painted t-shirt phase too, which I really miss. I miss that. I should make more. But I'm still buying trucker hats. I mentioned, I forget when it was, but I mentioned.
Shout out to 2000's Ashton Kutcher. Because that was, I think Bowling for Soup wrote a song called Trucker Hat.
Oh, Jesus.
They never wrote a song called Oversized Scarf. Weirdly,
my most recent purchase was a Hypershock BattleBots trucker hat, and it has yet to arrive. So I'm still buying trucker hats to this day. I love them. It's a perfect hat to wear backwards.
There you go. Interesting. Yeah, I had a roommate whose name was Clark, and he would find small companies throughout America that had merch.
Yeah.
Or if they were just Clark's like trucking or Clark's landscaping, he would just buy their hats online, and he had like a closet full of Clark hats. I thought it was, at first I was a little like, what? And then I was like, this is actually a dope hobby. Actually, I think I like this a lot. Anyway, so no scarf things, but whatever this was in this video, it didn't catch on a la Haley's orange hair or
right.
any other particular looks. But it works for the very soft, friendly backyard evening by the fire, grilling some things 4th of July weekend during a dangerous summer, perhaps. But yes, anything like you said, there weren't enough album sales maybe to have stuff from the video itself look-wise catch on. But there was a magic to A Dangerous Summer because all of you who follow us seem to know and love them. Where does this song or album rank in their discography for the common Dangerous Summer fan, would you say?
Probably number one, the album.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely the biggest single off of the album. It wasn't the first one. Surface came out first, which is their other big one. But I remember seeing them on the 10-year anniversary tour in Denver, actually. And they played this album front to back, and I honestly cried the whole time because they broke up, and I was like, I'm never going to see this band again. They came back and then played one of my favorite albums front to back, and I was just sobbing, and people in the crowd were losing their fucking minds when they started playing this song. It's probably their biggest. I mean, they have some really good ones. Never Feel Alone is how they usually ended up. Is usually how the closeout sets, and people seem to enjoy that one too. But I would have to guess of most Dangerous Summer fans, this is probably their favorite album. It's mine for sure. Warpaint was very good as well. And Mother Nature and Self-Titled were Golden Album and shit were pretty good too. But yeah, I mean, this is one of my favorite of all times. Like, you kind of mentioned their lyrics, but there's a lot of themes of like, I really think for once that I can change. It's really not that bad. Like, there's stuff about that. There's stuff about, contemplating, fucking overdosing and like not wanting to be here anymore. And then like the next song, oh, but it can get better. Maybe. Am I that guy? It's a heavy album that like, to me, it's not quite lay on the floor, but it's like contemplate laying on the floor. But there's a lot of self-awareness in it that to me is like, it was even more necessary than I had it at the age of 20 or 19 or whatever. But the lyrics are just so good, man. And again, I'm not a lyrics guy. I can recite probably every line from this album. It's one of the few that I know like front to back because I really connected with it, like spiritually and emotionally. And
yeah, we talked about this a lot on the Upsides episode, but yeah, different, I guess, sub-generations or whatever deal with the angst of being that age differently. And as mental health maybe became more of a talking point throughout the 2010s, this were maybe the early flashes in that pan or whatever, however you want to frame that. Before we go, not that this, don't want to make this episode too short or whatever, but any, legacy of the band, one last memory that you can share before you save some stuff for the drum draft and the Desert Island Redemption episode, which I can't guarantee when those are going to come out, but keep an eye out on the Twitter feed at _reminiscent FM. They'll be coming. Didn't want to just never talk about the Dangerous Summer, even though Tom has mentioned them a lot throughout. But yeah, any parting thoughts? A fun memory? What's the legacy of the band? More scarf talk, I
do love a good scarf, dude. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like,
I wonder if that was just like when cardigans started coming, they were just like, there's no rules anymore. Let's just try other shit. I don't know. The cardigan thing was like real heavy while it was happening. It was short-lived, shined bright. But yeah, I don't know if it was 2008 where things started taking kind of that alt turn maybe, but I don't know. I'll stop trying to make the same point 4 times unsuccessfully in the same episode. I'm trying to get better at that. So
this is one of those episodes where it's like hard to even know what to say because it's just like the lyrics are great. The fucking guitar is amazing. The drums are perfect. Like, there's so much I want to talk about the drums, but this is going to be a strong early pick on the drum draft. So I don't want to like give too much away, but I really encourage people to listen to the drums, especially during the verses of this song. You'll notice a lot of really interesting things where the kick and the snare are doing the 4 on the floor, just a doom, ksh, doom, ksh. But the hi-hat is doing this accented pattern that's giving like a little bit more flair to the song. It might be what a more amateur drummer would be, I guess, tempted to do on the kick, to kind of follow this more like, not syncopated, but like a groovier feel, but instead he does it on the hi-hat. On the second verse, he's like pairing the floor tom with it. And then once you get into the bridge of the song, the drums just go fucking crazy. And actually Tyler Minsberg, who's the original drummer of this band, we kind of became friends. I would see them all the time. So Brian and I like kind of knew each other. And after Tyler left the band, we were actually talking one day because I was going to pay him to drive from Ellicott City to my apartment in Arlington, Virginia, and really teach me how to play the bridge of this song. And I forget if like he had car troubles the day he was supposed to come down, and he never ended up really showing it to me. But like, it's really special, man. Like it could have gone one of two ways: way too simple or like overly complicated. And he just like rode this sweet spot of the drums, and just so much movement, so much space. Like the 3D image of this song in the mix is so incredible. I mean, Paul Levitt is a very talented engineer, and I feel like this is the kind of song that really envelops you, and rather than feeling like you're kind of standing at a distance observing it, you're in the middle of it, and it's just very brilliantly written. I think the video also gives this sense of like wonder that I feel like the song does itself. You know, the video is basically a performance video with kids running around trying to inspire some, youth innocence energy to it. I think maybe there's some motifs of the songs about change, growing up, whatever. And at that stage, you're in your infancy of like who this new person is. And there's a lot of excitement over like, who could I become on the other side of this thing? So I think some of the kids running around, not really addressing the band in the video, but being in the same space. It's like this very like young, innocent energy to just all the things that we could become on the other side of this thing. And I think it's an interesting way to do a performance video with a couple other visual elements in it that doesn't feel like it was just there for like something interesting, but it's also invoking some of the other thoughts, the themes from the lyrics itself. Really simple, but I think crazy effective. It's also like, hey, look how cool our band looks and all that kind of stuff. But I love it, man. I feel, even though the energy of the music makes me feel like heavy, like the weight of the world is on my shoulder, there's a feeling of inspiration that comes with it. And I feel like it's an album that kind of like puts me in my place, but also lets me know that like I can move on from that. And I think that's what the lyrics, that's what the video is saying. I don't know. It's a really special album. It was there when I needed it. It's always there when I need it. It never hits any differently, any less. Just super special.
I think that's a beautiful way to end a Dangerous Summer episode, if you ask me.
I want to keep talking, but I don't have much else to say without
No, that's
getting
good.
too
You're saving
emotional.
some stuff. Yeah, we have more projects coming up, and
Yeah.
that's important and good. Wanted to touch on them. Crossing off boxes. Like I said, I think, again, at some point we'll get to the used. Sorry, the used, for going another week without talking about you, but we'll get there. We promise. We're working on it. And for all of you who have a betting pool going and had the Dangerous Summer coming up before the used, then congrats on your payout or a drink, whatever game you're playing along with us. So,
Right.
yeah, I think we can comfortably move to songs of the week. That was beautifully put, Tom. I kind of let you run there for a bit, which is obviously the show is me just interrupting you as you try to say beautiful shit. But I decided to not, and I'm glad I didn't because, well put, man.
Thanks, man. I've been listening to a lot of counterparts in melodic hardcore and stuff lately. And honestly, I really rely on the YouTube algorithm to feed me new stuff that isn't usually going to come across my desk. And the song Masochist by Polaris came up from 2020. And I've been enjoying that and a bunch of other stuff from some artists that might come up in future weeks, It Prevails era, stuff like that. Just really craving melodic hardcore, which I think tells you a lot about what the next few months of my life are going to look like. It's going to get kind of weird and dark, but I'm into it right now.
Give me Leave the Door Open by Bruno Mars, Anderson .Paak, and Silk Sonic. A live rendition of this came up on my feed the other day, and it's hard not to really enjoy it whenever it comes on in any form. Yeah, I'm going to leave the door open, girl. I don't know. It's fucking A rules. I don't know what to say other than it's talented dudes at their peak making it happen. Very fun, very enjoyable. Whether it's watching them do it or just it coming on the radio.
Cool beans.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that'll do it. I don't know what we're going to do for the post show, but let's go there now.
That's what we call a tease in the business. See you there, folks. Anyway,
Love
if you're
you
here,
all.
Love you. Follow us at _reminiscent FM. Love you, Tom.
Love you, man. See ya. Alrighty, my friends. Again, thank you all so much for being here, for listening to these episodes. Our favorite part, as you should know by now, hit us up on Twitter at _reminiscent FM. Let us know your favorite memory at a dangerous summer show. Have you seen them before? Do you love them? What's your favorite album? Yada, yada. Please just talk to us. We love you all so much. We'll talk to you next week with a super special interview with the singer of Chunk, No Captain Chunk. So we'll catch you next week. Bye, everyone.